So there's no reading to go along with this. I might suggest taking notes on some loose leaf, but I'm just going to do two examples of the diagram and describe the bonding type problems, which students typically find a little more challenging. So this first one, it says diagram describe the bonding in chromium 3 sulfide. So I know chromium is Cr, sulfur is S. So first thing I need to do is draw the before. So I know there's chromium, there's a Roman numeral 3. So although that's a transition metal, I wouldn't typically know how many electrons to draw. There's 3, which means I know it's going to lose all 3. And then sulfur, I know has 6 valence electrons. Okay, so that's the before. And then the during, I know chromium is going to give up its electrons to sulfur, so it's going to give one here to sulfur and then one here. And then it looks like I need another sulfur because the chromium still has one even though the sulfur has a full octet. So I'm going to make another sulfur here. And so now the chromium give its last one. Now the chromium has a full shell underneath here. You can't see it, but it's there. And each sulfur is full, but actually it's not. This one's not full. So that means I actually need another chromium. Okay, and so this chromium can give an electron to this sulfur, but it's still got 2 left, which means I need one more sulfur, which I'm kind of running out of space here. Okay, and this chromium, okay, so that's what that would look like. So then I'd be left with Cr. It's lost 3 electrons, so it's now a 3 plus. And then the sulfur is a 2 minus, but it's got all 8 electrons. And there are 2 chromiums and 3 sulfurs. So the actual formula for this would be Cr2S3, like that. So now I need to do a explanation, and I need to make sure to include all the right things. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about the electronegativities, right? So I can say when chromium and sulfur bond, chromium will lose electrons due to its low electronegativity, whereas sulfur will gain electrons due to its high electronegativity. Alright, so I can say chromium. Now I need to talk about the ions, right? I've already kind of talked about the electron. Chromium will form a +3 cation when it loses 3 electrons. Sulfur will form a -2 anion when it loses 2 electrons. Not loses, gains, right? The sulfur is gaining electrons because it has a high electronegativity. Okay, now what else do I need to talk about? The structure. So we can say 3 sulfur anions and 2 chromium cations will form a repeating structure of positive and negative, a crystal lattice. Okay, so we've talked about electronegativity, electrons, ions, and the structure. So I think we're good. Whoa. What just happened? That is so sad. Oh, there it is. Whew. Scary. I thought we lost it. Okay, so now let's look at selenium and bromine. Selenium and bromine. Well, selenium is Se and bromine is Br. So selenium, I look it up and it's got 6 valence electrons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a nonmetal. Bromine has 7. These are going to form a covalent bond. And actually, I can already tell that I'm going to need another bromine. So I'm just going to draw it in here. How do I know I'm going to need another bromine? Because it's going to form one here and one here. I can already kind of see it happening. Okay, so I can select all this and put it down here for the during. So now they're not going to transfer electrons, they're going to share, right? So this one's going to go in between here, and this one's going to go in between here. And then these are going to share right there. And so what I'm going to have left over is I'm going to have selenium with 2 lone pairs, and then it's going to form a bond with bromine, and the bromine has 3 lone pairs, and another bromine which also has 3 lone pairs. Right? And so this has a structure, very similar to H2O actually, except it's not oxygen, it's selenium, and it's not H, it's bromine. Okay, so let's explain this. So we can say both selenium and bromine have high electronegativities. So are they going to transfer electrons? No. High electronegativities and will share electrons in a covalent bond. Okay, so that's the electronegativities, that's the electrons. Let's go into a little more detail though. So we can say selenium will share 1 electron each with bromine, which also shares an electron with selenium. And we can say because, so we need to talk about the ions, right? Because no electrons are gained or lost, no ions are formed. And then last thing, the structure. So we can say the structure of the compound will be a molecule. We know that because it's covalent. Okay, and then last thing here is the formula, right? So it's 1 Se, and then it's 2 Brs, so it's Br2. And then we need the name too, don't we? So formula and the name. So how many seleniums? There's 1, so we just leave it selenium since it's the first one. And then the bromine, there's 2, so that would be di. And then we have to change it to bromide, so it's bromide. So selenium bromide. Nice. All right. So I will see you in class. Bye-bye.